I'm Steve Gilman, and this is Brand Story, where we help you build stronger, more sustainable brands by sharing insightful conversations with brand leaders, marketers, and professional storytellers. My guest today is Mita Mallick.
I've been the person who's written a lot in the marketplace of how do you survive a toxic workplace? How do you spot it? How do you survive a bad boss? It's the number one DM I get from people. It's like someone sends me this like painful story, horrible, but something happening at work, something the boss is doing to them, and like how do they survive that? And it's so heartbreaking. And I think to myself, why is it that we do this to each other? And why can't we think about the role we each play in our workplaces and how I might have a really toxic habit or just an annoying one that's stopping people from doing their best work? And that's really the message of the book.
Welcome to Brand Story. I'm your host, Steve Gilman, and my guest today is Mita Mallick. Mita is a LinkedIn top voice, a successful author, and a change maker in the world of diversity, equity, and inclusion. And now the author of a brand new book, The Devil Emails at Midnight: What Good Leaders Learn from Bad Bosses. And in her new book, she shares hilarious and really sometimes heartbreaking stories of the 13 bad bosses she once survived. And the book challenges us to avoid the pitfalls of bad boss behavior. Mita, welcome back to Brand Story.
Oh my God, thank you so much. And third time's the charm?
Yeah, third time is the charm.
Amazing.
I mean, the other two episodes are great. So if anyone out there hasn't listened to those, please go back
thank you so
and
much.
hit those episodes because they're some of my favorites. But it is so wonderful to have you back for a third time.
I'm so excited. I was looking forward to this conversation all day so we could catch
me
up.
too. I've been like so psyched about this. And last time you were here, we talked about Reimagine Inclusion. The book is right behind you in your shot for anyone watching this video. And that book did incredibly well. I think it probably even exceeded your expectations. And I just wanted to say congratulations because after we talked, it was just like a whirlwind for you.
No, I mean, thank you for supporting the book. Thanks for everyone that did. It's a story took me 4 years to publish that book. I got so many rejections for that book, as I've shared. I'm not an overnight success. Anyone who says they're an overnight success, it's rare, but you don't get to see all the grinding and rejections and everything that happens behind the screen. So that was really meaningful that it made the Wall Street Journal and USA Today bestseller list because it took a lot to get it out. And then we're here with the second one.
Yeah, which I think will do equally as well.
Thank you.
The first one did so well. And this one comes out, the Devil Emails at Midnight comes out September 30th.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does.
That's great. I think that's really exciting because it's just right around the corner. So anyone listening,
I know, countdown is down.
Yeah, you can pre-order it on Amazon right now. And the countdown is, just on the verge of happening. Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about just how you came up with this book and what inspired it. Like, what was the moment in your experience that made you think you needed to write about this?
Well, it's interesting. I've been both a marketing executive and an HR executive, and I treat my books like a product. And I thought about what was happening in the market and is continuing to happen is that nonfiction sales are down. Fiction sales are skyrocketing, and that's because people are looking for escapism. So an interesting challenge, Steve, as a marketer, how do you get people to read a business book and not put it down? My first book was important. It's a good book. This, as you'll see, even with the title, The Devil Emails at Midnight, here's a screenshot of the book, it's just the evoking the color and the emotion. You have a visceral reaction, right? And so I thought about how do you bring a little bit of fiction into nonfiction? It is a business book. But it starts with, 13 archetypes. I include myself as a bad boss. The opening line of the book is, I've been a bad boss and chances are so have you. And I go through archetypes of different bosses that I've survived. I've changed the details and the names and the timing. I don't want to shame anyone. I hope that they're good bosses now. The sheriff, Medusa, the napper. You're like, oh, wow, this is really interesting. Tell me more. Reading the stories, and then every chapter is about lessons about how we don't show up that way. But the genesis of this book, Steve, is that my mother's home was flooded and destroyed a few years ago. It's back and she's great. She's back in her house. But I was in my childhood bedroom in this moment with her in the house, trying to save, anything that I could. Because if you've ever been to a soaked home or a home destroyed by fire, it is traumatizing. And I found writings from like the first grade. Spelling bee certificates from elementary school. I was like the proud fifth grade editor-in-chief of my newspaper, all these things. And I find, Steve, a notebook for my 20s. And it has nicknames of bosses I've had and descriptions and things they've said and done. Like in my 20s, I had documented all this stuff. And I thought to myself, there was this Mean Girls burn book moment. I was like, what if I'm in someone's notebook?
Yeah.
Isn't that an interesting thought? Because it's very easy to talk about the bad boss and spill the tea and talk to your friends at drinks. I can't believe that Mita's acting this way. But it's like, what if you're the person who's acting this way? So that was the genesis of the book. And that's how I decided to position it.
That is really inspiring. And I think, it's interesting because this topic's really important. And I love that you wrote a book about it. And you're such a talented author. Like your books, even though they touch on serious topics, they're really entertaining. You can tell that you were a marketer, professional marketer at a high level for a really long time. Even the title is so provocative and memorable. Instantly when I saw it, the devil emails at midnight, it just makes you want to know more. So I'm excited.
And that's what I thought about as a marketer. Yeah.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah, there's something about when really talented marketers write books. A lot of people write very dry business books. I think we both read a lot of them or tried to, and I think what you do is you take an important topic and you make it entertaining and digestible. And I think that's really important with the kind of attention spans we have now. So I think you've done that really well with this book.
Yeah. Thank you. That means a lot. That's the biggest compliment. Yeah. That was the goal. That was the goal.
Yeah. Well, you definitely nailed it because everything that I've been able to dig into so far has been really entertaining and kind of funny and heartbreaking at times. And then you recognize yourself in some of these archetypes, unfortunately, or you've had one and it's happened to you. And I think it's just a really complicated thing that we all deal with work and life where, we are in these relationships and these boss subordinate relationships and they're very complex, and they're difficult. So, and I think one of the things I want to talk to you a little bit about is I think one of the cool things about this book being out is this is something that a lot of people, I think, sort of try to bury because maybe there's an element of shame or there's I don't want to talk about that because maybe it was partly my fault or maybe this or maybe that. So how do you feel about bringing this topic into the light?
I think it's important. Listen, I've been the person who's written a lot in the marketplace of how do you survive a toxic workplace? How do you spot it? How do you survive a bad boss? It's the number one DM I get from people. It's like someone sends me this painful story, horrible, but something happening at work, something the boss is doing to them. And how do they survive that? And it's so heartbreaking. And I think to myself, why is it that we do this to each other? And why can't we think about the role we each play in our workplaces and how I might have a really toxic habit or just an annoying one that's stopping people from doing their best work. And that's really the message of the book. I mean, it's a hopeful book in the end, right? Of course, it's spilling tea on bad bosses, but it's we all can do better and be better in our workplaces.
Yeah. And I also think that one of the good parts of this book is it makes people feel heard and like they're not alone. Because sometimes some of us have had these bosses or seen these bosses in the workplace and we feel like, oh, it must be so rare. Like, a monster like that can't exist in another organization.
Yeah.
But yet, here they all are in your book.
Well, it's so funny as I'm sharing weekly dropping chapters of the book on LinkedIn, I've had people comment as if we've worked for the same boss. And I've had to clarify, oh, Steve, yes, sounds very similar. We didn't work for the same boss, but you're right. We could see ourselves in these situations. And it was very healing for me to write. And I thought, okay, well, I know I'm not alone in these experiences.
Yeah, I bet. And I've seen, the LinkedIn posts. If anyone doesn't follow Mita on LinkedIn, do it today. Her posts are really consistent, really entertaining, and really educational. And I've seen a lot of the comments, and I think you're just making a lot of people feel heard with this book. And also, it's just kind of also entertaining. So I wanted to just kind of jump into a couple of the archetypes because I recognize them immediately. And we all haven't had the exact same version of these people. But it is, when I went through the 13 of these, they are more common than we'd like to admit.
Yes. Yes, they are.
So one that I wanted to ask you about was the spotlight stealer.
Oh,
because I think that's one a lot of us have been, if you're young and you're in the workplace, the spotlight stealer is one, the person who takes credit. Can you unpack that one a little bit for us?
Yeah. I mean, I nickname all my bosses, you'll see as you read the book, but Spotlight was, man, he loved a good ribbon cutting ceremony, loved to be on stage accepting an award, would grab a chair just to stand on top of it and gather a crowd in the cafeteria or the open space. loved to be the star and hated to share the spotlight. And it was really interesting. Examples like he might send me something like, what do you think about this competitive launch that just happened in the marketplace? And so when your boss sends you a note like that, what do? You send like a brief, concise, but powerful little analysis. Like, here's what I think, right? So I would do that over and over again. And one time he accidentally forwarded it to me. He was just cutting and pasting what I was saying back to the CEO. And you're like, oh my God. Right.
Yeah.
And so it's just wild to me. We also, at one point, I remember getting access to his performance review by mistake. And he was just like all of his direct reports, all of our KPIs and goals that we had achieved was part of his performance review. And listen, you're listening to this and you're saying, yeah, but isn't that a job of a leader? I'm like, right. But here's the thing. When they shine, you shine.
Right.
And you shine, they shine. It's give and receive, and it's a circle. And when you are constantly taking credit for everything your team does, and you're not teaching, training, and coaching, I start to think, what does it matter? He's going to just take credit anyways for it. Like maybe I can do a little less, or maybe I can shortcut, or let him figure it out. And so that's what I think. I mean, I've never, Steve, in my career, I never really understood why I couldn't be in a meeting and present my own work. It's just always was like, why someone else has to send my deck, or why someone else has to email the CEO. It's like, what? And I know meetings are broken. We can have another whole 2-hour conversation
maybe
on that.
That'll be your next book.
Maybe I'm in my next book, but I don't have to fly to London anymore or Paris to present. I can hop on a Zoom, and also I can just come and present my portion. I'm not saying that I stay for the whole meeting. And I just think it's the biggest retention tool. We come to work to make impact. And if no one knows that I'm making this impact, then how do you think it makes me feel? And so I hope more leaders can think about how they can share that spotlight and give people credit and recognition for what they're doing.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And that's one of the reasons I wanted to call this one out, because I think it's one of the most common. And I think it's one that does the most damage. It's very subtle, but even if you don't have evidence, like someone emails you your work back to you, which that's actually happened to me too, is, people, you can just tell when someone is not sharing the spotlight. And to be a good leader, it's all about sharing the spotlight and giving credit and helping the people that
and you know what happens,
for you
Steve,
do better.
And when you're a leader like that, you start to attract talent. People want to work for you because they know that's who you are. You are the leader who creates more leaders. You share the spotlight. You give credit, right? You say thank you and please and all of the things that good and even great leaders do. And then you're not going to have an issue filling your team. You're going to have people banging down the door to try to get on your team.
Yeah. And anyone you work for is going to see what you're doing and appreciate that you're growing future leaders. I mean, I always think a spotlight stealer, someone that takes credit the actual work of others, maybe got promoted into the job and doesn't actually have any idea what they're doing. It always feels like an imposter thing to me, And it's just crazy behavior.
Absolutely.
So I think that's so for everyone listening, that's why this book is so much fun. You will recognize these archetypes and you will have stories and you're going to want to share them. And I just think it's a really almost freeing book, because I don't think this kind of workplace trauma, whether it's light or heavy trauma, or these workplace frustrations, there's no forum for all of us to talk about it, because you don't talk about it at work much, except for maybe in the shadows, So this is just, I think you've done a really nice thing for people of putting this out there.
Oh, thank you. No one's positioned it that way. I appreciate you talking about it that way. I haven't heard that before, so I appreciate that.
Yeah, I love your books. So, the second I could get my hands on it, I was so into it. So there's another archetype that I've heard you talk about briefly on another podcast. And it's one that's definitely, I think, maybe one of your worst. But the Medusa.
Oh, yeah.
The fear-based leaders. Can you unpack that one a little bit for me?
So... that's the one, that's one of the three that I still can't wrap my head around. I know it's happening today to someone listening in their job, and I'm sorry. I had never had anyone scream at me in my life. Not my parents, not my brother, not my husband, not friends. It's just not something that happened in my home, and it wasn't tolerated, something I tolerated in relationships. And then here I am forced to work for this person, voluntold, moved onto their team. Screams, yells, publicly, privately humiliates. She's an equal opportunity bully. She'll go after anyone. It doesn't matter. has tantrums like a toddler, throws pens in meetings, threw a Chanel shoe at a colleague. And this is a memory actually that I had buried. And my husband reminded me of it. And as soon as he reminded me of it, I was like flashed. I was like, wow. And I'm like, oh, you do listen to my stories. But some of these things that happen at work, they're traumatic. You bury them.
Yeah.
And I to this day don't understand how that's tolerated in our workplaces. This idea, like, we can all agree that fear does drive short-term results, but it has devastating long-term consequences. And so I showed up at that job, scared out of my mind every day. But that fear drove me because I thought I just got to do better, be better. She'll leave me alone. It didn't matter. She was going to come after me or anyone else anyways. And then what starts happening is you actually get scared. You actually get tired of being scared. It's a tiring feeling. If you're on high alert all the time, that adrenaline rush, it's exhausting. And that's when you slowly start to say, it doesn't matter what I do. She's going to get angry anyway. I'm going to go under the radar. I don't want her to see me. I'm going to go hide. I'm going to be just not in her line of sight. And you start to disengage. And then you start to see, as I say, the candle, the flames start to flicker, right? Like you're going out. It's a sign of burnout. And then what happens then? For me, I was able to leave on my own and I crafted an exit plan and left the company. The other option would have been Mita's a poor performer. She is no longer engaged and we're going to put her on a performance improvement plan and she's out of the company. We're exiting her. But no one's asking what happened to Mita, who was a high performer, right? Like no one's asking that question. Right. They're just saying it's time for her to go.
Yeah. And I think that, well, one, I'm really sorry you had that experience. Like that's just
thank you.
Unbelievably inappropriate for any workplace. But unfortunately, and one of the reasons I want to bring it up is I've seen it. You know, I
mean, you talk about LinkedIn. It was so interesting. All the comments, you and people have seen it. I mean, it's awful. Yeah. It's awful.
Yeah, I just think like an organization accepting bullying in the workplace or abuse is, I mean, boy, does that speak volumes about the culture. And what'll be allowed and what that brand and what that organization is like if that can go under the radar for any period of time. And like you said, you either hide, you try to outwork it somehow, you try to cope, or you sort of settle into this long-term codependent craziness. And I've seen people do that, you know, that just figure out a way to stay and appease.
Yeah. And it's so interesting because then the behavior becomes normalized. And I'll never forget, I went out to dinner with girlfriends who hadn't seen me in a while. Because also you start socially isolating yourselves. This happened to me when I've been in bullying situations at work. And I had lost so much weight. I just looked different. The light was gone in my eyes. And I'm telling them these stories. And you then remember these people are looking at you like this isn't normal. Like your friends. But what happens is, it's really interesting. Yeah. People are like, what? This isn't normal. But it's interesting. Bad bosses, in some ways, create inclusion and community because so many of us become then bonded against them. Either bosses, you know, there's two types of bully bosses. They isolate really well. And so they'll isolate and divide and conquer. So you and I might be on the same team being bullied, but we're isolated. We don't talk to each other. We don't know. Or it's an equal opportunity bully. And so then all of a sudden, all of us are bonded. And I swear to you, Steve, if someone called me right now from the Medusa days, I'd hang up on you. Like I would just take that person's call because we're so bonded. But then what happens is we all start to normalize the behavior because it's our coping. And then you're meeting with friends at dinner and they're like, this is not normal.
Yeah. I mean, it's like being in battle. It's like that you're in a foxhole with these people. Yes, and so it becomes this reality and you get stuck in it. And I've seen that happen. I had a team when I was managing a marketing team at a client site. There was a PR director that was doing that to their people and they were right next door to us. And the dynamics could not have been more different. But it was, there was all this suffering and anger and problems all the time. And it's just a crazy thing. So I'm glad you got free of that. And anyone else that has that happening, please get a copy of Mita's book, read it. It will help you recognize that you're not alone. And, I think those kind of situations, no matter what's going on in your life, that kind of abuse is not okay, especially in the workplace, There's no place for it.
Yes, absolutely.
So one that I wanted to call out that I don't know if anyone that's talked to you about your book yet has brought this one up. And this leapt out to me because of other conversations you and I have had. And I thought it was so nice that it was in here. because, you approach these archetypes and your writing with such empathy. And it isn't, you're not just pointing fingers and being like, these are bad people. And you're not just, doing the thing that so many people in the world do now where they're just flaming other people. And one of the ones that you called out was the grieving boss.
Yeah.
And I know you've had grief experiences. I've had grief experiences. It's common to all of us. But I thought that was so interesting about how much that can affect a team and a workplace. Can you unpack that one a little bit?
Yeah, I'm the 13th boss. It's me. I was the boss who couldn't show up for a team because she was grieving. And it was in 2017, a call from my mother changed my life forever. My dad was suddenly gone, suddenly lost him. And in the weeks to follow, actually, I think the company had 3 or 5 days bereavement leave. It was somewhere between that. And my team rallied around. I took 3 weeks off. And as you know, in the Devil Emails at Midnight, I make a case for bereavement leave. But I come back, I'm back at work. It's like I'm contagious. I mean, we have a hard time dealing with grief in our homes and our communities and at work. So it's like, I'm so sorry for your loss, like running away from me, right? It's like, can't handle it. But interesting, the people who had experienced grief connected in a different way with me. And then the boss who said, oh, thank God you got your mojo back. Okay, good. We're here. Meaning that I wasn't allowed to be sad or unhappy. So there's this pretense you have to keep up. And I just buried the grief. I mean, it was awful. I was like, I remember, I'm not proud of this. I yelled at people. I screamed at them. I apologized after, but I knew where that emotion was coming from. It was from losing my dad and not having an outlet for it. I was a micromanager. I'll never forget, I redid a deck like 30 minutes before a leadership team meeting. And I said to my team, you never sent the deck. And then I checked my inbox. I sent it like 3 times. Then I'm in there changing all these things that don't matter. Right. Then I'm in the back brooding while they're presenting it.
Trying to get a little control over the chaos.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then I'm like gone for days. And I just wish that, what I had wished was I had said, I'm missing my dad. I'm having a hard time today. His birthday's coming up. I'm taking it off. It's Father's Day. Like, I wish I had said those things. And I wish that, perhaps I had an environment where people were more receptive to that. Certainly my boss wasn't, but I certainly had team members who were and peers. Yeah. But it's so interesting because now, wherever I work and wherever I am in life, if I know someone has lost someone they love, I immediately reach out. I might not even know the person, but it's this thing that bonds you that no one wants to be bonded over. No one wants to be part of this club, and we all will be. But there's that, if I can say that there's a silver lining. I have a different level of empathy for grief than I never did before. And, listen, it's not just grief. It could be, it could not physically losing someone, miscarriage, fertility issues, divorce, breakup, moving, you're sick, someone's sick. There's so many different forms of grief. Yeah. And we can't compartmentalize it. We might try. I might try to shove it in the drawer at home and then show up at work. It's going to show up.
Of course it is.
In the times when I least expect it.
Yeah. And that, I love your perspective on that. And I love that you advocate for bereavement leave and just advocate for the humanity that we all need to have in the workplace, because it's just, in some ways it's so surprising that workplaces are still stuck on this. Like, oh, you had a grief experience, get away from me. And I don't want to deal with it. And are you okay 5 days later? You better be. Let's go. Like, let's go. That's just not reality. And what's going to happen is exactly what happened to you. It's going to just come out all over the place if we aren't allowed to have the time and aren't allowed to have the support to heal. Yeah. And everybody's time frame is different.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So I really love that you put that in the book, because I think that's really common.
Oh, thank you.
And from people who have bad bosses, we don't want to excuse like a Medusa. But one of the things that I've noticed is sometimes there'll be someone who's a bad boss for a while and they start to come out of it. And I'm like, what were you going through?
Well, yeah. And like what you're bringing up is something that's so important for us to recognize. Bad boss, good leader. Bad boss, good leader.
Yeah.
It swings. And even with Medusa, if we had talked about this, maybe, I'm a third timer, but our first podcast episode we did together, I was on your show. I don't think I had this much empathy, Steve, for bad bosses. And I think it's through writing the book. Yeah. And I think I have empathy for Medusa. What was going on in her life? I mean, she doesn't need another executive coach. She needed therapy. Yeah. Something was happening. And she's an extreme exacerbated version that she shouldn't have been allowed to stay. And she did. But yeah, I think about that. Like, bad bosses are misdirected, misguided. hurt individuals, and we all can be one of them.
Yeah, I agree. And that goes for clients and any relationship
Yes.
that we have out there in the professional world. There are times people are broken now and then.
Mm.
And, people are
They
broken
are.
maybe all the time. And then
Yes.
some more than others, and people go through things. And when you can recognize it and come at it with empathy, I think it helps. Maybe it doesn't solve it, but it helps. So one of the questions I had about just bad bosses and the concept is that what is some of the most common bad boss behaviors that you think that we as workers or we as organizations have just normalized without knowing it?
Well, there's many, but the one that I'll bring up is that is the idea of toxic positivity.
Yeah.
I think that's really interesting in this marketplace when change is just constant and layoffs are happening and restructuring and tariffs and whatever else is in the headlines that have real business consequences. And I know you'll appreciate this as a marketer. I was working for this boss I called the cheerleader because he was the corporate Pied Piper, great teacher, coach. People wanted to be around him. And he did all the things that you'd be like, well, he's a good leader, isn't he? Except he was a yes person and he was an Instagram reel. What doesn't kill you makes you stronger. Keep it up. You're superwoman. You can do this. And you're like, and then I'll never forget, we're launching a cereal innovation. It does gangbusters. I mean, people are eating cereal for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I don't recommend that, but it's like cereal all day, every day. Our supply chain team comes to us and says, we're missing this key ingredient. We can't make this anymore. Like, it's just not possible for the next few months, which is devastating, right? You're like, what am I going to do? You have to come up with a plan B. You either convince people to buy something else or you wait. And he was like, no, we're adding $1 million to the forecast. I'm like, what? And everyone's like, there's no way we can make it. He's like, we can do it. We can do it. We're going to make it. So what do you think happens? Fast forward to my review. I get no merit increase. I don't get a bonus it barely covers my Starbucks addiction. And it's the lowest rating. And it's like, well, you didn't meet the forecast. And I'm like, well, you set a forecast that made no sense. And I think that's one to watch for. I'm not telling people not to be inspiring and not to be positive. But what I am saying is there has to be a dose of realism. So if I work for Steve and Steve says, by the end of this quarter, this is the goal. Here's what you need to do as a team. And the 10 things that I needed, I know I only have now 4 of them.
Yeah.
So are we going to have that conversation? Or are you going to bury your head in the sand and say, yeah, let's do it? You're like, I can't do it. And that's what I want people to think about is, can you get in the trenches with your teams when things have changed to just have an honest and accurate understanding of what it's going to take? It's no longer maybe achieving 100%. Maybe it's 80, maybe it's 70, but people are scared, Steve, right?
Yeah.
They don't want to be the leader who doesn't achieve the goal. And it's like, well, sometimes things are out of our hands. Wouldn't you rather be honest and say, this is what we can do here. Maybe we can make up for that revenue loss somewhere else in the portfolio. And that's the conversations we should be having.
Yeah, I think realism and empathy go hand in hand in leadership,
Yes.
And sometimes these goals that get set, talk about the curse of the unrealistic goal, which just happens in American corporations over and over and over again. Just because someone put it on a spreadsheet doesn't mean it's going to happen. Sometimes it's unrealistic to a fault.
I feel like that should be a t-shirt. I think that's a t-shirt or a bumper sticker. That's great. I love that, Steve.
Yeah. And I think that people suffer from that because all of a sudden someone's decided we're all doing this. And yet no one ever has the empathy or the realism to check with the people who actually do the thing to be like, wow, no, actually this won't even, there's no chance of this working. And then, I think the toxic positivity of just everything being a happiness slogan and everything being a go team. I think I've been around that a little bit too. Boy, talk about something that does not work.
Doesn't work. And also, I also share in this part of the Devil Emails at Midnight. This was also the boss who just wanted us to always smile like a Cheshire cat, like smile on demand. And I'm sorry,
good Lord.
My resting face might look like an angry face, but I'm working and I'm thinking. Yeah. So I'm not smiling and working. I'm just in deep thought. And he'd be like, what's wrong? Why aren't you smiling? Smile more, smile more. And it's interesting because I do, based on research, see that women get asked to smile more than men. But it's interesting. One of my friends who's a man had said, I actually have been given that feedback. I'm like, oh, that's interesting, right? It's not, but it is disproportionately does affect women. But this idea that it's like a live stream and I have to be smiling all the time in the office because someone's watching me and you're like, I'm just trying to get work done. I don't have time to smile. This is like energy wasted. And I'm a person who likes to naturally smile, but I don't like smile on demand.
No, I think
No.
telling someone to smile more is probably one of the most destructive, crappy things you can say to someone. Like, it's
Yes.
sexist usually. It's just kind of shitty.
Yeah.
Like all of our resting faces are different, and who knows what we might be thinking about. We may have been
Right.
working 1 second and then thinking about a loss in our life we had or a problem we have somewhere else.
Exactly.
Come up and tell someone to smile is just like, I don't know what movie you think you're in. You're like in a workplace movie of your own invention,
Yeah.
and everyone's a
Yeah,
smiling character.
Yeah. Well, now I have my Joker screensaver on. I just smile. Like, when I was working for him, that's what you sort of have coping mechanisms. You're like, I don't want to keep hearing him. You're just like, you're like, well,
he's here. I'm just going to paste it on my face.
Well, yeah, exactly.
That's crazy. So one of the questions I wanted to ask you, because of the title of the book, of The Devil Emails at Midnight, can you think of a story or an email, like either from the book or from your experience, that you just still can't believe happened? Like, is there emails that you've gotten where you're just like, oh my God, like a real head slapper?
I just think emails that aren't urgent. Why are you saying this to me at midnight? You should be in bed. Yeah. Like, I'm not embarrassed to say I'm in bed at midnight. And this is like anti-hustle culture. Like, listen, I have a book launch coming up imminently. You better believe I'm working hard. But this isn't like my normal. I can't work like this all the time. I'm not an AI agent. I'm human. So that's what I find really interesting. Yeah, I've received like wild and crazy emails where I'm like, that should have been a journal entry. You should have written that in your diary. I do this. Like, Steve's pissed me off with an email. I'll write it in my journal and rip it up, and then I'll sleep on it and write the real note to Steve. So sometimes you get notes that are like, I don't think you should have hit send on that, but fine. But it's this idea of like, I don't think this was urgent. I have been the devil who emails at midnight. So let me be clear. I've been the person who can't sleep, who wants to be productive. And what do? You work for me. I want to get it out of my inbox as fast as possible into your inbox. It just becomes this game versus me sitting and thinking, I don't need to send this now. I could write it down. I could put it in a shared Google Doc. I could talk to Steve on Wednesday when we have our weekly status. And so that's the behavior that I'm like, this is not urgent. Here's the thing. I have never, and you've heard me say this in The Devil Emails at Midnight, I have never been a crisis counselor, 911 operator, emergency room professional, a firefighter. Like, I have not worked in a profession where it's life or death. So I don't understand the need to reach out to people at midnight unless there is something you are doing for like a customer or a client on a Monday and you're working around the clock. But those are drive periods. It's not your normal way of working. And if it is, then it's a problem.
Yeah, I think most of the artifacts of hustle culture have just done a ton of damage to how we think we're supposed to work, or how some bosses think we are. And just the lack of mindfulness that goes into emailing someone at midnight. And I've done it. We've all done it, but I've done it and then realized what a selfish act I just did. Like, because that person,
I love that.
Yeah, because that person is going to get that. And what story are they going to tell themselves about me?
Particularly if there's a power dynamic, right?
Of course.
Particularly.
Yeah, it definitely went. And usually the person emailing that late, there is a power dynamic.
Yes.
You might be delegating something, or you're being like, oh, I had this idea. One, don't be so in love with your stupid ideas. And two, like, don't be a selfish jerk. That person has a life. They have a spouse or friends, or they're tired. And I just I think all leaders need a giant dose of mindfulness on how they treat others.
I agree.
It's crazy. So let me ask you, so I don't keep you, I could talk to you all day, and I know how busy you are with this book launch.
No, of course. Thank you.
So, as far as where we go from here, one, everyone go buy this book, because I think whether you're starting in your career or whether you're a manager and you're working on being a leader, or you're a seasoned leader, there is just a ton of good advice in here that I think all of us need. But as far as like where we go from here as leaders and teammates, if you could rewrite like one workplace norm, what would it be? Like, what would you change about how we as leaders act, or as teammates? Like, what do we enable?
I'd love to see more self-awareness and humility in our workplaces. You remember, I had this boss once who used to always say to me, what do you think I should work on? And one time I channeled Brene Brown, and I was clear and kind and told him. He lost his mind. He's like, that's not what I need to work on. That didn't happen. And you're like, okay, next time you asked me, I put the Joker smile on. I was like, everything's fine. Everything's fine. And so it's like, why can't we think about at least one or two things that we need to work on and then share that with somebody? Whether it's that I'm sorry if you worked for me early in my career, I was micromanaging Mita, right? Like, so if I could have found that out about myself, or someone trusted me enough to tell me that, and if I could have said, I'm going to work on this and hold myself and others accountable. And when you create a culture like that, yeah, if I say to you, Steve, I'm going to work on this thing, thanks for holding me accountable. We could just be peers in the workplace. You might then come to me a few weeks later and like, I'm going to role model what you're doing. I'm actually going to work on this one thing. Can you help me? And that's how we create a culture. I mean, listen, I say we spend too much time at work not to care about each other and the work we're doing. And so just show up to do better, be better, and help each other. That's all we can do.
Yeah. And I think one of the parts of that is to be vulnerable.
Yes.
Because to be able to say to someone else, whether it's someone that's a subordinate or a superior or a peer, like, this is something I don't do very well, and I'm working on getting better at this. So if you notice me do it, like, maybe tell me, or, now that I've told you, when you put something out there in the world, it becomes much more real than if you're just working on it in your head.
Absolutely.
So I think that sort of trust and all of those actions we can take are just so important. So what's next for you? Like, I've been watching all your posts, and I think it's so cool that, like, your posts right now have a lot to do with this book, and I think you're helping people think about the dysfunction that can be inside teams and how hard it is to be a good leader and how to work to be better one. But what do you think is what's coming up after this?
Oh my goodness.
Do you have any idea? I know you're in the middle of a book launch.
Lots of good thoughts for this book and doing really well. I want a 3rd and 4th book deal. And I really I'm on a mission to fix what's broken in our workplaces, helping coaching people, going into companies and helping them. I mean, that's what I want to do. And that's my mission. So here we go.
Well, you're very gifted at it. And I think,
thank you.
Your last book was absolutely amazing. I've given your book to so many people and clients and friends, and I can't wait to start giving this one out. And so anyone that gets a chance to read Mita's current book, it's available on Amazon. You can pre-order it right now. You can't forget the title, The Devil Emails at Midnight. And it really is a great read. And I think it's really helpful for people. Do you have any final thoughts about the book, of what you want people to take away from it?
I hope, like I said, people read the book and think about one thing they want to show up and do better and be better in the workplaces. You can get it on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, your independent bookstore. The Devil Emails at Midnight, What Good Leaders Can Learn from Bad Bosses. Thank you so much, Steve, for having me. 3rd time is a charm.
3rd time is a charm. I think I had a blast talking with you today. So I'm just going to be sitting over here waiting for your 4th book, or whatever you do next, whatever you get into.
Awesome.
So we'll stay in touch. And then, like, I think you're going to be our first 4-time and first 5th-time guest. Let's keep it going.
Here we go. Thank you.
Yeah, great to see you. Thanks a lot for being here today.
Thank you.
Want to hear more inspiring stories? Subscribe on your preferred podcast app so you don't miss an episode. And if you like what we're doing, please rate, review, and share. It's the best way to support us. Thank you for listening to Brand Story.